So I would say that there's undeniable evidence that central intelligence organizations came together with the idea of creating a way to avoid the rapid inflation that they knew was coming. So that's
Hmm.
probably the best way to do it. And think about this as well. And I'm sure you guys already know this. What happened during 2008? People lost all confidence in banks. And then the Fed came in and printed into oblivion. So prior to 2008, it was like a steady 2% inflation rate from the Fed. They were following this protocol. America was booming. We had this massive crash. Fed stimulates the economy, and then they go, oh, you're worried about rapid deflation of the dollar? Well, here's Bitcoin. And
Hmm.
so Bitcoin is the digital gold, right? Bitcoin is the new asset class. And so I don't believe in coincidences, just unrecognized patterns. And so I think that that's a pattern I was able to recognize that as soon as the Fed began printing into oblivion, they ramped up that inflation rate to bail out the American economy. Bitcoin comes out of nowhere as a quote unquote gift from God, right? Satoshi unknown. So that's what I'd say on that probably.
Yeah, I think we're all on a pretty similar wavelength on that one.
That's
Yeah, it's
reassuring.
the way that I always was looking at it is like, if okay, so I always talk about Jim Rickards, and he wrote a book called Currency Wars. And it's a fantastic book. He talks about the time that he spent with the Department of Defense in war room scenarios, trying to come up with how could a country try to dethrone the dollar. And this was in like 2011. So technically this was after Bitcoin, right? That he's at least telling us that this all occurred. And so, but to my thinking, well, that's probably a conversation that's been had since, well, probably the 1970s when they first were like, well, we're going to kind of like take over the monetary system with this new Bretton Woods system, or the end of the Bretton Woods system into the new system that we had. And so from that point forward, they knew that the US dollar's moat really wasn't built off of anything, right? So from that point forward, I got to figure out, well, what's going to come after this? Like, because this is just a little bit of a patch on the thing that I know is not working forever. So from that point forward, this is right around the not too far before, I guess, the Cold War and all of the stuff that was happening with cryptography. And so I've got people that I'm going to hire from the Department of Defense to figure out, what would anyone want to do if they wanted to overthrow the US dollar? What would that look like? Well, how could someone build a system that would be the superior version of our dollar, and how could they use technology to do it? And if I'm hiring the best people in the world to figure that problem out for decades and decades at a time, it's not surprising that you got distributed computing patents coming out in the 80s and in the 90s. And it's not surprising to me to think that maybe they found something that might actually work. And they were like, let's press the go button on this and see what happens, right? So that's another thing that I try to think about is, how could the US or any other country as well, right, thought ahead of what is the future of the monetary system? And I need to get ahead of that and do it myself. Because if I do it myself, then that means that no one else can do it, right? So anyways, it's kind of.
Hey, you made it to the end of the clip. That means you're probably enjoying this. And if so, just know that you can catch us live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to see the full version of this episode, you can click the link in the description down below. Otherwise, YouTube thinks that you will enjoy this next.